Scaling Ari Production. Hey everybody, we are back. This is Dino, our podcast for the YouTube video. Got a special guest today. We got Colin Bressler, right?
Yep.
Colin Bressler. He's got a new film on Amazon Prime right now, Remy's Demons. You have 3 films prior to that have dropped on.
Yes, sir.
But this new film, it's a micro-budget indie horror movie.
Yep,
And
that is true.
yeah, it's definitely a interesting watch. There's some deep themes I see going on there. Would you do me a favor, just in a nutshell, tell me about Remy's Demons for you.
So, Remy's Demons is, as I like to say, a coming of age horror love story.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I kind of come from all kind of backgrounds in terms of cinema. I've done, I've been involved in documentaries and romantic comedies and everything. So I'm not like a strict, uniformly horror person in terms of my career. And
Right.
So I think my movies sort of inhabit that. And so with Remy's Demons, what I mean by that is like they're not. I don't adhere to strict sort of horror guidelines. Not that I'm sure no one really does, but so my movies tend to sort of veer into genre in specific stuff. And
Right.
So the core, yes. I mean, I make horror movies. I love horror movies. But with Remy's Demons, I really wanted to make a movie about, two oddballs kind of coming together and meeting each other and falling in love and having this experience. And with the backdrop of that being horror and demon possession and things like that. And so that's kind of the drop. I mean, it's basically a story of Remy, who is on the spectrum, the autism, Asperger's spectrum. And he's been raised by a Satanist sort of pagan worshipping mother who's involved in witchcraft and all kinds of stuff. And so that's his whole worldview. That's all he's ever known. And so it's sort of like the concept of, a what if? Well, what if a guy with those set of circumstances was raised by Carrie's mother from the movie Carrie? That was sort of the beginning thing for Josh Kaza and I. Josh Kaza co-wrote the film with me. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. I kind of meandered there, but I mean, that's kind of the basic principle of the movie.
Okay, yeah. Now, and because I don't want to spoil the film because I want people to see it.
Well, I would say this, like Faith. It's interesting because you and I spoke off camera, so to speak. Faith has always been a big deal to me.
Right.
And so faith is the core thematic element of the movie.
Right.
But faith in anything, right? Mm-hmm. So faith in Christ or faith in God or faith in whatever, right? So like that's sort of the key component that Josh Kaza and I worked on when we were talking about it. It's like I wanted there to be this idea that part of what the demons in Remy's Demons are. The demons are people that are trying to find their faith or what they have faith in. And so that's a big backdrop of the movie. Sorry to interrupt you there.
No, because you actually got into what my question / comment was going to be, because like I said, I didn't want to spoil it, but it seemed a lot of what Remy's Demons actually were those around him.
Yes.
The humans around him, you know, like, like his aunt, like his mother, like his quote unquote friend. Those seem to be what his biggest demons were, not the fact that he had this ability to tap into the spirit world.
Yes.
You would think that the demons that were attacking him would have come in a traditional horror movie, would have been those demons. The ones
Yes.
that were baggage of his gift, per se. But it was the actual flesh and blood people that really were his biggest demons and his biggest load to bear. Even more so than his autism.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And that it's funny because the title of the film came after the fact, which is probably pretty common actually. But why I mention that is that, we were writing it and I knew I wanted, it was something with Remy, I was kind of like, I want his name in the title. And then we played around with some stuff and then it kind of landed on demons because for that exact reason, because we both felt like Remy's Demons alludes to the two, the sort of dual error, the dual effect of it all. That there's two things happening here, So yes, there is a demon component, right? But there's also demons like we all have, right? This idea of the human condition, and it's like, oh man, let's say someone with alcoholism or someone with drug addiction or whatever.
Right.
In some cases they're referred to as, oh, my demons, or
yeah,
or whatever. It could be childhood trauma or whatever. And it's like, so that was kind of why that title, we settled on that title, and we felt that it was the best sort of representation of the overarching thematic element of the movie.
Okay. Now, speaking of Remy, can you tell me about Jason Scarborough?
Jason Scarborough is a South Texas actor. He's been in a lot of stuff down, like I said, in South Texas. A lot of indie films and some kind of pilot content too. And he's pretty seasoned as far as, it's not like this was his first movie, right? Jason came to the film after the original casting. I originally casted another actor, not with Jason, by the way. I had never met Jason to this point, right? So I want to make it clear that it wasn't like Jason was a secondary pick. It was that I hadn't met Jason, right? So I had this other actor involved. We actually shot a full day with the other actor. We were preparing to shoot another day, and the guy bailed. So I was in a bind. And to be honest with you, getting back to faith and sort of like inner strength, I was pretty done. I was actually ready to quit. Not quit. I was my project, but I was ready to be like, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to find another movie. But Angelina Ron Sorensen, who plays Mildred, kind of talked me off a cliff. And I got back into it. So then I got in touch with a casting director named June Griffin Garcia out down in South Texas, and she put me on to Jason. And we met and we hit it off right away. And I liked his professionalism. I'm big on that. Like, I just want people that are going to put the effort in. And I remember in the first ever meeting we had, Jason said that he has like people on the spectrum in his family, and that if he takes on the project, he doesn't want it to be a caricature, that it would be, and that was big for me. I was like, wow, I love it. Like I said, I'm not interested in that either. So anyway, so Jason took it on, and he had to live with this character for a very long time. We shot the film, almost took us about 10 to 11 months.
Oh wow.
Yeah, well, because I had no money or time. So this was like, it was the kind of thing, it'd be like, Jason, can you work Wednesday?
Right.
and Jason has a job, full-time job and a family, a beautiful young boy, a wife, you know how it is. I mean, so
Yeah.
it's like, how do you get away from this to go? And also your wife's got to be sitting there going, what are you doing? What? Remy's Demon? What is this nonsense? Like there's just that inherent thing. And so he just, he would work his 9-to-5 job and he'd come to that house most of the time, other locations sometimes. And then he would shoot these, for a few hours. And then, long days because he had a full day of work, and then he'd work with me till 9:30, 10 o'clock, and then he'd go home. So I just say that because since we're talking specifically about Jason, is that like his effort. I think it shows in the film. I think he did an incredible job, but also just like that effort to have to deal with this for that long and carry the burden of his characters who has such burden. It just must have been really tough for him.
Yeah, because that's what I was going to ask you, is if he had any experience dealing with people on the spectrum, because you can see it that he's completely bought in to that performance, with facial tics, with hand gestures, when it's not just a voice and a dial. His nonverbals really sell it.
Yeah, and that's, and I'm so, first of all, thank you for saying that, because that means a lot to me as a filmmaker, because those are the things like it doesn't always work, and sometimes it works halfway, and sometimes it's gold, right? And so Jason brought a lot of that to it, right? Mm-hmm. So the screenplay had the basis of the character, and then Jason took it across the end zone line into the touchdown. That's the truth, right? Jason was very instrumental in the tics and the way he talked and all those things. That wasn't as clear on the page. That was Jason, like doing his own work, doing his own, and really as a director, my job was minimal. And I'm sure from his standpoint, it's probably frustrating too, by the way, what I just said, because he's probably like, yeah, I needed more direction, like kind of thing. Right. But at the same time, that to me is kind of part of the deal, right? It's like, we have no money and we have no time. So the more invested the actor is, I have to lean on them for that. And in the case of Jason in this movie, and it's, it's true of pretty much all the actors, but Jason being the lead, for him to sort of carry that burden and carry the weight of the character, and then to show up and have those, like you said, like the tics and all these mannerisms and all this stuff. A lot of that stuff, like how he walked and moved, that's not Jason, that's the character, and it's amazing to do that it's amazing to do that anywhere. If he had done it in a Leo DiCaprio movie, it'd be incredible. But to do it in a movie of this level with no infrastructure and no budget is profound, in my opinion. And I'm a cheerleader for him, because I think he's got an insane level of talent. Anytime somebody says anything about him positive, I always text them like a quote from the person, because I want him to know that, like, dude, you got talent, like out the wazoo. Yeah,
well, let him know that we think so. So
I will absolutely.
Yeah. So as far as your influences, not just with specifically right now with Remy's Demons, because that's what we're focusing on, but just in general, as far as horror and other genre, directorially, what are your influences that you're bringing in?
Well, generally, right. So like we're we all have our sort of favorite directors, and mine are not surprising, right? I love Kubrick. I love, Spike Lee was a big, huge influence for me to even be doing this, actually, back in the 90s when I was growing, coming of age, early 90s, late 80s. I loved his work. And then Hitchcock and the like. But as far as horror, I mentioned Kubrick before. I think that The Shining is like almost the perfect movie, if there is such a thing. I love that film. The Thing, and the 1982 version of The Thing is this. And when I say they're great films, I'm trying to keep your question in mind. And what I mean by that is where I think that the artistry of cinema sort of came together in a way that like blew me away and made me go, okay, that's it. You know, the first Halloween, I hold up there really high as something that my second movie, Bloody Drama, was a slasher. And I really researched and studied Halloween for that because I wanted to sort of do a sort of more of a throwback slasher movie.
Right.
That's also available on Amazon Prime. There you go. But yeah, I mean, and then obviously the more recent. I mean, I am a huge Jordan Peele fan. I mean, I know everybody is at this point, but like us, Get Out blew me away, but Us like took me through the roof. Like I was like, this is insane. So that was like a recent movie that I remember being blown away by.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, because in your film, in Remy's Demons, you know, this is another one that everyone brings up, you know, and everyone within the last 2 or 3 years brings up, you know, but, you know, Hereditary, you know, with the music, and then the fact that you're seeing the mother's, you know, apparition show up. You know, I read a lot of that into it, and you do have some genuine jump scare moments that are pretty effective.
Oh, great!
You know,
That's good to hear.
I'm worn out on them in general, just because you always see them coming. You know, my 8-year-old is a jump scare fanatic, and she knows. Okay, well, when it's framed this way and there's this much space over here, this is where you know something's going to come in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here it is. You know.
Well, on that for a second, I agree with you. First off, yes, they are sort of played out to a degree. Also, I mean, let's face it. I mean, you know, cinema history has now been a long time, right? So, and what I mean by that is like, yeah, I mean, if we're talking in the 60s, we'd probably sound differently because we'd be like, oh, you know, I like a good jump scare. We've just had so much more film history to watch that it's like, okay, I get it. The guy jumps out of the closet.
Yeah.
My point being that I was happy to hear that you said that because about that some of them were effective in this film, because my theory on it is that a lot of times I see movies and they're building tension towards the jump scare, and then the jump scare happens, and it's either the jump scare is a friend comes out of the woods and goes, "Hey, Nancy, what's going on?" And it's like, oh, and so it was a cheat, right? There wasn't anything scary.
Yeah, the cat that jumps out of the ceiling from nowhere, you know, stuff like that too.
Yeah, and I don't want to come off like I'm, you know, the masters of the master. I don't really appreciate those, because I think that if you're going to try to scare me, then scare me with something that's motivated with the plot or motivated with the scare. So in like Insidious and movies like that, where it's like it happens where the ghost or a spirit jumps out, great, because that's what the scare is. Right. I really don't like the trick ones, and I think the trick ones have hurt the good ones because we're sort of now a little bit like jaded towards it. Right. Secondarily, I think that I like the jump scares that have no lead in. It's like you're lulled to sleep, you're just watching something mundane, and then boom, something happens. Those to me really can be effective if in that way, because I'm being lulled to sleep. It's the same thing in life, right? If you're going to scare your wife, you're not going to go in the corner of the closet and be like, you know, like you're making like a creepy effect, and then you jump out of the closet. You're going to wait. She's going to be brushing her teeth, and then you go, boom, you know, and she's totally freaked out by it. It's just, I think that it's more effective when it's the person's been lulled into a sense of calm or whatever, you know, and so that was my little jump in there.
Yeah, because there's one, and like I said, I don't want to spoil things, but just to be specific on your film is, you have the Millie is laying in the bed,
Mm-hmm.
and which is freaky to begin with because that's the bed that her sister died in. So right there, I'm thinking to myself, yeah, I wouldn't be laying on that bed. That's just me. I'm like, that's a little creepy. But she's laying on the bed and then looks in the corner and then sees the mother in the corner, right? So
Yes.
then there's a jump scare right there because I wasn't expecting that, and you had like a little sting to follow that up. So that was effective. But
Thank you. That's awesome.
then she rushes at Millie. So it was like a compound jump scare onto onto a jump scare.
Yes.
So it kind of brought it to it was like ill creep. Ooh, jump scare. Ooh, that was cool. Oh my gosh, here it comes again. So
Yeah. I mean, I think, like I said, I'm not, I don't know. I try not to think too deeply about, not deeply, but like, I try not to be overly influenced either when I do
right.
these things. And so I think that there's a part of that where I'm just coming from, I'm not really like locked in a certain specific element of a genre or anything.
Right.
I knew that I wanted there to be scary moments in the film that emphasized and played up the dilemma of the characters, and
right.
that's to me what the sort of horror / scary element, that's what their job was, and so like I was talking to a friend not that long ago, and I said that I don't know if I don't know if I can scare you. It's 2020. I mean, we're in quarantine. I don't know if I can scare anybody anymore. But what I want to try to do is make you care.
Right.
So my goal is that, in that bed, when she's sitting there, that you care enough to say, okay, oh man, what's going to happen here? Or with Remy or Vera or whoever, and so like I'm trying to make, three-dimensional, well thought out, full characters, and then craft a story around them, as opposed to having a story and then crafting three-dimensional characters around it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, for instance, like, I don't know, a guy finds a briefcase on his doorstep in the morning, no idea where it came from. And in it, there's a note with an address. That's interesting, right? Now I'm like, well, what is this? Where's it going to go? But now I'm crafting that's a storyline. I don't know much about that guy. So now I'm having to build that guy around that storyline. So right. I'm trying to do the opposite of that. And not every story. I mean, that's the thing. Like but in this movie, I really set out to try. I was like, it was, look, I'm working at an incredibly low level. I'm not pretending in any way, shape, or form. But Remy's Demons was made for less than $2,000, about $1,800. And so the reason I bring that up is that, I'm learning, I mean, I'm like anyone else. I mean, I'm learning the craft of cinema as we go and doing the best I can. And I'm also, trying to challenge myself with each film. And so when I set out to make this one, I wasn't so concerned about story. I was like, I want to craft characters. And then Josh and I sort of built a story in there, but really was focused on creating characters that felt real and filled with emotion and had their, pluses and minuses, so to speak.
Right. So what aspect of filmmaking do you enjoy do you enjoy writing? Do you enjoy directing? I know you were a DP before, right?
Yes, sir. Yep.
So is there any one that you enjoy doing more, or is it just an all-encompassing, you like, soup to nuts, seeing your vision, come to complete fulfillment type of thing?
Well, I love all of it, of course. That's the cheesy, lame answer.
Right.
The build answer is that I can tell you my least favorite by far is editing. I didn't set out to edit. I didn't learn editing. I went to film school. I took 2 editing classes. I was a cinematography major in film school. I still am a professional cinematographer to this day. That's my job.
Now, was this in the era of actual film?
Yes.
Starting?
1994.
Oh, okay. All right. So
I went to school in
the same age.
Yeah, I'm 44. I went to
I'm
school.
46.
Okay. Yeah, I went to school in 1994 to 1998 in Manhattan, in New York City.
Okay,
And
I'm Long Island.
oh, nice.
Originally.
What part of Long Island?
Nassau County.
Yeah.
Malvern, Lynbrook Valley Stream.
Yeah.
I went to Nassau Community College and I took some film courses there.
Oh, cool, man. That's awesome. Yeah. So I went to SVA. I don't know if you know it, but the art school, very small art school in New York City, and they make you take everything. I mean, I took acting, but I knew I would never ever step in front of a camera. It's just not my thing. But I barely focused on editing. It just wasn't something that I saw myself doing. I thought I'd be a director out the gate, but I fell in love with the camera and I fell in love with lighting particularly. And to this day, I love it. But I've done it for 20 years. You know, I've been doing camera professionally for 20 years. So like it's, you know, that's not to say I'm burnt out from it, but like I love writing. I've always written. I've written scripts going back to high school. So like that's I just love the idea of crafting a story. So I mean I would say that probably my first love is writing. I'd say like I love telling stories. And then you know after that it's probably directing and now cinematography. But directing is just it's kind of like a never ending lesson. Whereas there's a structure and there's a context to writing, you know, you can kind of learn structures and stuff like that. But directing is kind of just like it's learning to be a great manager as well as being an artist at the same, like kind of all encompassing, you know, a project manager with artistic skills, you know. So it's something I'm learning and getting better at, I think. But I also know that there's a long way to go. So that's a really exciting, inspiring thing to go forward.
Yeah. Okay, great. Now, once again, you know, Remy's Demons is on Amazon Prime right now.
Yep.
And you also have 3 other films on Prime.
Yes.
Now, can you tell me about those real quick?
Yeah, so on Prime there's Sleepover, which is a sort of like Blair Witch kind of ripoff experimental movie. It was my first movie I ever did. I mean, I did short films, but yeah, that was my first foray into directing. So it's on there, and then it's a ghost story, 2 girls in a house. That's why it's called a sleepover, because it's a sleepover. Basically, these 2 girls get haunted by a ghost all night. And then I did a movie called Bloody Drama, which is a sorority sisters that are, you know, they're out of college, but they were best of friends in college, but they've grown apart. So they have a one last soiree at a pool party, and there's a homicidal maniac killing them in the foregone house that they're staying in. And so it's a kind of classic, you know, Halloween style slasher. With a couple twists in it, and so that's called Bloody Drama. And then my second to last one, this is where I sort of ventured into new terrain, is Domestic Hell. Domestic Hell is a suspense thriller about domestic violence and a sick psychopath husband who's like out of control, and his domination and domineering over his wife Julia. And it turns into a really demented, sick, twisted story of passion and, like I said, domestic violence and all kinds of stuff. And it's a very intense, to some degree, hard to watch film, but it also has a heart to it. So that was my second to last one, and then Remy's Demons, and you know, and that's where I'm at now. And you know, I'd love for people to check them out, and also, you know, let me know what you think, you know.
Yeah, great. Now, do you have anything anything that you're writing or working on, or something that you're hoping to get off the ground?
Yeah. So right now, I'm writing a script with a young screenwriter in South Texas named Daniel Baumer, and it is a sort of it's kind of like I said. I mean, it's a genre bending kind of movie. It's kind of like a sci-fi horror. Yeah, I mean mostly sci-fi horror, but sci-fi horror drama I would call it. And
Okay.
we're in the second draft of that. And that right now, it's funny, we're writing two versions at the same time. We're writing a budgeted version, and then we're writing a no budget version. And the reason that we do that is because they're very different things. Because the movie deals with technology and a lot of different things. And so to do it no budget means the technology has to be super lo-fi. To
Right.
do it with a budget, then we could start to dive into some of the more technological stuff. So we're doing that, and Josh Kaza, who also co-wrote Remy's Demons with me, him and I are developing a TV series. And so that's not something I would make. That would be more of like a pitch deck that we would send to the networks in hopes to make it. It's kind of like a Game of Thrones type medieval type story, fantasy.
Yeah. I mean, even, stuff like that, even going on no budget, nowadays seems to be doable, with technology kind of being in our favor, as creators, per se.
Yeah.
I mean, I do a podcast, but, it's still creative to a
Of
point.
course, yeah. Yeah, of course.
But you look at something like on Shudder with a Headhunter, which is a complete like micro budget film, which is fantastic. And the things that, single set piece, single actor, keeps you engaged for 85 minutes.
I know. Amazing.
It's ridiculous. And even genre bending stuff, I have a buddy of mine, Joe Badon, from Louisiana, who is coming out with a second feature. His first one was called The God Inside My Ear. That's on Amazon also. And he has a second one coming out called Sister Tempest, which is ridiculous. And these were all done, I think his first film was just under 10 grand.
Wow.
Which is the craft service budget for, and then this one, I think he might have gone up to almost 30. I might be wrong on that, but I happened to see the completed version of that film, and it blew me away. And I'm just really loving, I would say my buddy and I, how we got into podcasting. My buddy and I, who we went to high school together, always talked about, we want to have a radio show, and we want to talk about this and this, and we don't want to be like other radio shows that just play music, or we don't want to be a morning zoo or whatever. And we never did anything because, we were kids with pipe dreams, and we had to work and do regular job type jobs. But 2 years ago, our phone conversations were cracking each other up. And I said, hey, man, why don't we record these and put them out as a podcast? And it'll be reminiscent of what we wanted to do 20-something years ago as a radio show. So technology is making our dreams from back then possible now.
Oh, absolutely. I always say, like, it's a give and take, right? Like, I mean, there's pluses and minuses to everything, but I agree with you. The pluses have made this all possible for me, 110%. Because at the time of when I started in the 90s, no way. I mean, it was right around. I remember right around 2000, the year 2000, 1999. digital started to take on, get really strong. They didn't have HD full, yet. I'm sure it existed on some random format that no one was using yet, but it wasn't widespread. And my brother and I, we lived together at the time in Brooklyn, and we both said, we wrote this script, and we said, let's make it. And we made it, off a shoestring budget, feature length, 80 something minutes. And I love it. I mean, I'm still very proud of it to this day, but it never went anywhere because back then, like I said, there weren't channels for this stuff to go. There wasn't Amazon Prime. There wasn't Hulu, Netflix, all this stuff. And so, and then most importantly, I personally own a camera, right? That's an HD. It's not 4K, but it's an HD camera. That's what I shot the movie on. It's insane. I could literally I can just go shoot a movie anytime I want. But in the 90s, that wasn't the camera we used in the 90s. That didn't even look anywhere near as good as my camera does now. Mm-hmm. Cost like $30,000.
Right.
So, not a lot of people have $30,000 sitting around that they're going to invest in a camera to make low budget movies. So I agree with you. Like, God, my camera was $2,600 online. I found the deal. And it's like I'm making these movies that are on Amazon Prime. with just
Yep. I mean, because, back then, the video cameras back then, the quality was, too clear.
Yeah.
Because you were running at what would be the equivalent of 30p.
Yeah.
So it would be, too clear. It would look very, quote unquote, home video.
Yeah.
It wasn't until about, when 28 Days Later came out and they were using Canon XL1s and, running at 24p or, that where you started getting a grainier, cinema type quality from them. So you either looked too clear to be film or just garbage like it was on, UHF with the video.
Yeah.
And now, the upside, like you said, technology is allowing people to become very good. I mean, what was it? There was a Soderbergh film that was shot on iPhones.
Yeah.
The downside of that now, though, is you do have Amazon and stuff, but then you have this oversaturation of content now. So now you're this guppy in this huge ocean.
Well, exactly.
Trying to get seen.
And I was thinking about you were mentioning your friend, and you said it's movie blew you away and everything. And on one hand, I was happy, but at the same, I was kind of a little sad because I was like, if I didn't know you, right, I wouldn't know. I would probably never hear about his film.
Right.
And I think I agree with you. I think that's a big thing we're going to have to tackle is how to whittle down these things to a place that average people who just want to see a cool movie and are open-minded to go, you know what, fine, Brad Pitt's not in this thing, but it sounds cool. The story sounds cool. Because the truth is, anytime the audiences get access to anything that's good, or interesting, they go crazy for it. Right. It's just that they don't get a lot of cool stuff. The people are not getting access to it because it's either like you said. I mean, how do you find it on Amazon? There's 8 million movies on there.
Yeah.
So no one can find this stuff, and therefore, like you said, your friend's movie falls through the cracks. And this guy might have made 2 masterpieces, and he's only reached maybe if he's doing a really good job, 20,000 people.
Right.
On the surface, that sounds like a lot of people, but it's not in the surface of actually trying to make a career out of this or beyond. And so that's I agree with you. I think that's a conundrum that's gonna I think it's gonna work itself out a little bit because I think it's just the nature of things. But I do think it's something we're also gonna face because there's just so much stuff on Amazon now that in some cases, and you know what, truth be told, maybe I would get whittled out. I don't know. But if it means that, and if it's merit-based, by the way, But if it means merit-based wise, because that's another thing, there's this too much in the film industry where it's just like a guy who knows a guy. And I wish that there was a little bit more of like keen eyes to say, you know what, I don't care who made this movie. I'm just going to look at it. Is this movie quality or not?
Right.
And have some sort of quality control where it's like, yeah, I'm this movie's made the cut. This movie, and I'm not saying you take the movies that don't make the cut off of Amazon. I'm saying maybe there's a way to call the things a different thing. Maybe it's like, there's an Amazon movie festival type area where the sort of more well-received movies go, where your friend's movie would be there, and then maybe a place where my movies are, and it's like, this is all the stuff being made out there, and just where people can kind of direct their attention to. Because right now, Remy's Demons is just in a general collection. So it just lives alongside of Brad Pitt's new movie, and so I'm not going to win that discussion. It's like
right, yeah. People may stumble upon it in the customers also watched, section.
Yep.
2 or 3 tiers down from Hereditary, or something like that. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, and that's why I like doing what I do, is trying to get a handful of people to see it. But then with the it's the same thing with the podcast. I'm a guy right now out of South Carolina, throwing a podcast on 12 platforms.
Yeah.
Hoping some bird, picks it up.
Well, I would say this, like, I'm a big podcast fan, right? Like, I'm your audience. I'm part of your audience. And so I have like 2 apps on my phone, and I go for walks, or anytime I drive. I don't really listen to music. I either listen to podcasts or that, and I'll say this, like, for that, I just look up genre, and I go, movie screenplay podcast, and just I want to hear about 2 dudes talking about screenplays, right? And stuff like that, and then it'll come up like however many or however that works, right. And it's funny because on some level that is happening, right? On some level that is happening in the podcast arena too. There's a million podcasts, right? So it's kind of like there's a similar thing happening to some degree, except there's a lower bandwidth for podcasts because it's generally audio, and it doesn't take up a lot of space on my phone. There's an easeability of it that I think attracts people a little bit more in that context. Whereas a movie, downloading a movie to your phone or to something is a bit of a bandwidth thing, and so on and so forth. So it's just kind of like, having these things to where, I don't know. It's just kind of ease of getting things to people in a way. But I think that with movies on Amazon and places like that, I think they do, eventually are going to have to sort of figure out a way to sort of let the cream rise a little bit and find a way to differentiate between, independent films, and don't do it by budget either. Like, don't just go, oh, we saw that this film had a 150K budget, and this one had 7,000. Because look at Robert Rodriguez's movies. Right. Then those fall through the crack, because now you're just saying, well, no, we're looking at this specifically. Yeah.
El Mariachi would have never seen the light of day, with that.
Yeah. I mean, because back then it was festival, so it was so good that festival circuit saw it and said, man, look at this thing. You got to see this. And then someone forwarded it to someone, and then it got into another festival, and slowly word of mouth happened. And that still exists, by the way. There's still a lot of film festivals. It's just, there's a lot of film festivals. And for someone on my level, I can barely afford to make these movies, let alone put them in. I mean, it's $50 a pop generally, to put it in. So, I mean, you're talking about 3 or 4 film festivals is like a quarter of my budget to make the movie.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah?
Yes, I'm here. I'm sorry. Oh, okay. I talked a lot, so I wanted to give you a chance.
Okay.
to move on or whatever you wanted to do.
No, no, I definitely, yeah, I hear you because I'm involved with Buried Alive Film Festival in Atlanta as
Oh,
well.
cool.
I'm involved with them. I, you know, help out when they need be. Um, and they're normally in November. However, I'm not sure what's going on this coming November, with the pandemic and all. So,
Yeah, I
yeah.
know. There's a really cool horror film festival in San Antonio,
Hmm.
and I've been a part of that for a few years. In terms of my movies, have been in there, and I'm really bummed because I haven't really heard much, but I'm assuming they're going to shutter. Because we've already had in South Texas, they've already canceled a bunch of stuff. So
Right.
I'm all the way through to like December. So it's like I don't know what because Remy's Demons is really scary. Not scary, but it's sad for me because I've submitted into a lot of film festivals and we haven't. None of them have come yet in terms of like have told us yes or no. But I'm
Right.
starting to think like I'm like, oh crap, like does this mean like Remy's sort of festival run is going to be null and void because 90% of them are not going to happen, or get
Right.
postponed. So it's like I'm just like, oh man, like another sort of like another effect of this whole situation.
Hmm.
Um, and obviously, like film festivals get the word out. It's a nice way to network, meet people, and then meet people that might say like, "Hey, I'm I'm interested in help expanding this film for you, or maybe doing your next one, whatever it is." They're really great for that kind of stuff. So it's like a kind of a huge blow if most of them are canceled.
Right.
Um, so we'll see, but so that I'm kind of on bated breath about that, but yeah, I mean
Right.
that's
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, do you have any? Where can people find out more about Remy's Demons?
Well, so right now I operate mostly at Instagram.
Hmm.
My Instagram page is called Bressler Productions. That's my production company. So it's at Bressler Productions. And basically like that's kind of where I do a lot of posts about what's coming and different things going on. And right now I'm heavy into Remy's Demons because it's just released on Amazon Prime. And so I've been doing a lot of promotional posts and just updates and news and trailers, and I'll promote this podcast. I promote any podcast that I'm doing on those things. So, just stuff like that. And I talk about whatever, eventually I'll pivot to the new project and start talking about that, just stuff like that. I've been using it for about 3 years now, Instagram as that tool. And on Facebook, Colin Bressler on Facebook, that's where I also post, stuff about like film stuff I'm doing, and I'm a part of a bunch of different horror groups and stuff like that. And Screamtime Films, I'm sorry, Screamtime Films is screamtimefilms.com is the distributor, and they're an amazing, awesome indie horror film company. So you're into horror, like they have awesome, crazy, wacky, fun, like indie horror films. And so on there's the whole Remy's Demons page and everything, and you can buy the DVD if you love the movie. And whatever else. But yeah, there's and on the DVD there's if you like the movie, there's a bunch of interviews with the actors about the project, so stuff like that. But yeah, I mean that's kind of it. We don't really have a website. I mean, I don't do a lot of website stuff. So it's really just those two places, Instagram and Facebook. And like I said, Instagram's kind of the main one, and that's where you can follow me, and then I can also I DM people a lot and let them know what's going on and tell them to check out different things or whatever.
Right.
But we have a lot of cool stuff coming up. I mean, I'm really excited about these future projects, and there's other stuff. It's always some new stuff in the pipe, but that's kind of like where we're at this point.
All right. Cool. So you heard it. Go watch it on Amazon Prime, Remy's Demons, and then go to was it
Screamtimefilms.com.
screamtimefilms.com, and buy the DVD for the special features. See, win-win,
It
win,
is a win-win.
win. See, that's how we do it. Shall we do it, Colin? I want to thank you for sitting down with me.
Of course, anytime.
All right, and guys, you know what I say. Be decent to each other.
Game RE Production.